Stronger.
Imagine a world without choices.
Stronger.
Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC.
Tell them we're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. It isn't that alright?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. My name is Douglas Harper, and we have a very special program for you tonight. We'll be focusing on the Cbdc, looking at what it is, and what are the benefits and disadvantages, and of course how this will affect our lives, and what is the UIC's position on the central bank digital currency. Big up yourself, Lion Rule the Jungle. Glad to see you on. We may be joined a little later by Mr. Patterson, who will be coming on a little later. But I want to get straight into our discussion tonight. So, well, before I do begin the discussion, please remember, guys, to like and share our content, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so that you stay up to date with our programs. All right, so central bank digital currency. All right, tonight we'll be looking at what that is. Jamaica is starting or has started its own central bank digital currency, or the government has started its own central bank digital currency. It goes by the name of Jam-Dex. And this is central bank digital currency that has been authorized by the Central Bank of Jamaica, which is the Bank of Jamaica. And but first, we want to look at what money is, because a lot of us, we use money, we earn money, but a lot of us don't really know what money is. And so I'm going to play a very short video for you guys that gives you an introduction on what money is. Now, this video is a video for kids, so they've broken it down very simply, maybe too simple, but I'm going to play for you a video that speaks to what is money. All right, so we'll watch that video and then come right back.
We use money every day. We use it to buy groceries at the supermarket, or a new outfit at the mall, or to pay the plumber to repair a broken faucet. But what is money? What makes it so seemingly magical that everyone accepts it as a form of payment? To understand how money works, we need to go back to the origins of money, the barter system. Billy is a lumberjack, and Mary is an egg farmer. After chopping down many trees, Billy soon has more wood than he needs. Similarly, Mary soon has more chickens and more eggs than she can eat. That means they have a surplus. Billy, after chopping down all of the trees, is now very hungry and would very much like some food, and Mary would like some firewood so she can cook her food. And thus, a trade will develop between Billy and Mary. Given enough time, an exchange rate will also develop, say 1 egg for 1 medium-sized log. But these rates could change. If some of the chickens died, Mary might demand more logs per egg, since she will have less eggs now to trade. If there were a forest fire, the lumberjack might want more eggs in exchange for his wood. Now, although this seems perfectly fine, barter has a disadvantage, which economists call the double coincidence of wants. To put it plainly, this means that to barter, you must find someone who has what you want and wants what you have. This obviously limits trade tremendously. For example, let's say an apple farmer, we'll call him Jack, enters the scene. Mary would like to buy an apple, but Jack doesn't want any chickens or eggs. He wants firewood. Mary will have to trade for some wood with Billy before she can trade for an apple from Jack. The more people that enter our society, the more confusing trade will become. And here we come to how money originates. To solve the double coincidence of wants, people will find a commodity that everyone wants, like Billy discovering this diamond mine, and try to gain a surplus of that commodity, not because of its usefulness, but because they can trade it to gain what they want. And that is what money is, a medium of exchange. See how much easier it is to trade now? Everyone is willing to trade his or her goods for diamonds. So what makes a commodity useful as money? Over the years, economists have narrowed down 5 main characteristics that most forms of money have. First, money must be divisible so that exchange rates can be made. Mary would have a hard time selling half of an egg, making the egg less likely to become a form of money. Second, money requires a high value per unit weight, or portability. Cattle, for instance, are too large to carry around easily, and thus don't make good money either. Third, money needs to retain its value over time. It must be durable. For example, Mary's eggs would not make very good money because if they are kept for too long, they will go rotten. Fourth, money must be recognizable. People must be able to easily identify that it is money, and every piece must be uniform so that it can be accurately counted and measured. Finally, money must be scarce, high value in relation to weight and volume. This is what gives money its value. For example, if diamonds weren't scarce but as common as ordinary stones, Billy and Jack and Mary wouldn't want to trade for them anymore. Now, over the years, many different commodities have served as money. Tobacco, sugar, salt, shells, beads, and pieces of paper with politicians' faces on them. But 2 dominant commodities have been used the most, gold and silver, because they perfectly satisfy the 5 characteristics, and for good reason. Gold has ornamental value and can be easily divided and carried around. Only certain acids can destroy it. Everyone knows this yellow metal when they see it, and there is a limited supply of gold in the world, which makes it scarce. So the next time you use money at the store, think about whether the money you are using truly satisfies the 5 characteristics of money. Is it divisible? Is it portable? Is it durable? Is it recognizable? And will it always be scarce?
Okay, so that is a short video explaining what money is. And I want to, highlight some of the key takeaways from the video. So first and foremost, we learned that money is a medium of exchange. That's actually one of the characteristics of money. It has to be a medium of exchange. But they also went into what are the 5 characteristics. There are other people that have said there are 7 characteristics. This video has 5 characteristics of what money is, what makes something money. So it has to be divisible, which means, you have to be able to divide it. So you can divide a $50 into, 5 $10 or, 2 20s and a $10. It has to be divisible. It has to be portable, something that is easily carried around, right? It has to be durable, something that's it's not easily torn, although we have banknotes now that are easily torn, but it has to be durable. It has to be recognizable. So everybody must know that this is a $1, this is a $5, this is a $10, etc. And also it has to be scarce, or it has to have a limited supply. Right? Now, there is one important characteristic that was kind of glossed over in the video, and that is the characteristic that money must have a store of value. When we were talking about money being durable, they mentioned that. But that is a very important part of money. It has to have a store of value. So we learned about what money is, and so what are these pieces of paper that are pieces of plastic in some countries that we are using for money? Is that money? Well, those are what we call currency, and there's a difference between currency and money. Now, it is true the currency that we use today is being used as money, but that doesn't mean that currency is money, right? So there's a difference between currency and money, and kind of for us to understand this, we go by the characteristics again. You know, if what you're using does not have a store of value, then it really cannot be considered money. And if you look at what's happening today with our inflation, you know, you really have to ask yourself the question, are we really using money, right? So now we're going to look at digital currency. And what is a digital currency, right? So since 2009, there's been a rise in digital currencies, Bitcoin being the first and the most famous digital currency. And since then, you know, there's been if you want to say, a rush. It's almost like the gold rush in the, I don't remember what year it was, but it's almost like the gold rush back in the day. There's been a rush to digital currencies. You see a lot of different types of digital currencies outside of Bitcoin. But we're also seeing central banks rushing to create digital currencies. So before we get there though, I want us to look at a video that I'm going to play that speaks of the difference between the currency that we use, the fiat currency, which is the paper money that we are using, and cryptocurrency, which is the digital money or digital currency that Bitcoin represents. So I'm going to play a video for you guys, and we come back and discuss after.
Fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies, both a medium of exchange and a store of value. Both rely on trust, but there is one huge difference, and it may not be what you're thinking. Hello and welcome to Bitpanda Academy. I'm Jessica Walker, and if you've clicked on this video, then you've probably already heard about this thing called cryptocurrencies. You might have already invested, or you might be thinking about it. Well, if you're looking at expanding your knowledge on this topic and more, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Firstly, let's talk value. Currencies such as the euro, the US dollar, and the Great British pound are all known as fiat currencies. Now, the term fiat is actually translated in Latin as "let it be done." You may hear of a king or queen ruling by royal fiat, which essentially gives the person in authority the ability to enforce a law or command. Now, that's exactly what happened when the US dollar decoupled value from the price of gold. The US government, by fiat rule, declared the US dollar as legal tender, backed by the US government. It actually holds no intrinsic value. And a cryptocurrency, well, in the fewest amount of words, a cryptocurrency is a digital asset created to act as a medium of exchange. But unlike their fiat counterparts, they aren't controlled by one person or one government, which brings us to our next point. When you buy something with fiat currency, you need to rely on a trustworthy authority, such as the European Central Bank, to serve as a mediator that vouches for the currency's worth. Well, either way, if you're the buyer or the seller, you're trusting that the currency will still sustain its value after the transaction has been made. So while fiat money is subject to inflation and central banks can essentially print more at any time, the leading cryptocurrency Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million units, making it even scarcer than gold. Basically, there is no risk of inflation. Essentially, when we see that governments try to print more money to get out of economic turmoil, it can cause currencies to devalue. Now, while as an end user, you might not feel the impact of this right away. You'll first notice a difference on imported goods, for example, and you might get less euro for your dollar when you look to convert. So Bitcoin's value boils down to how effective it is as a medium of exchange. It can be measured by its growing base of users, merchants, and also startups. As with all currencies, Bitcoin's value comes down directly from people willing to accept it as a form of payment. But there is no set perfect price for Bitcoin, which is why you might also see some crazy price predictions reaching as high as $2 million per Bitcoin. Now, we can't ignore the centralized versus decentralized nature of both fiat and crypto. Cryptocurrencies allow direct transactions between individuals without the intervention of a middleman, such as a bank or a government. They can be spent and received by anyone, anywhere, and at any time. For a lot of people, this adds huge value. Bitcoin can be trusted because it's tamper-proof and cannot be spent twice. The fact that Bitcoin's public ledger is transparent and all transactions are visible creates trust, which is why Bitcoin continues to be wildly the most popular cryptocurrency around the globe. However, this does come with some risks. A Bitcoin transaction cannot be reversed, cancelled, or charged back, meaning if you send to the wrong address or you lose access to your digital wallet, it can put you in a difficult situation. So in summary, here's what we've learned. Both cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies can be used for payments and as a store of value. You can save and you can spend both. Both rely in trust in you, the consumer, in order to work as a means of exchange. Fiat money is issued and controlled by a central bank and government. And Bitcoin can be trusted because it's tamper-proof and cannot be spent twice because of the code it's created on. A Bitcoin transaction can also not be reversed, cancelled, or charged back. So which of these two would you prefer to hold for the next 10 years? Myself and some other members of the Bitpanda team will share our thoughts in the comments of this video. Join the conversation and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any more content like this.
Okay, so I hope you guys kind of got an idea of the difference or the maybe similarities of fiat currency and digital currency, what some people are calling cryptocurrency. So we learned some key takeaways. We know that, well, I forgot to say earlier on that fiat, really the name fiat means is really fake. The currencies that we're using right now are fake. Why are they fake? Because they're not backed by anything. So it was mentioned in the video that in 1971, the US dollar came off the gold standard, right? And so the US dollar is now backed by nothing. And the rest of the world is now being backed by nothing as well. So all the other currencies that we have in the world are using the US dollar as a standard, but that US dollar is not backed by anything. But to get back to the video, we saw where one of the differences between a cryptocurrency and fiat currency is that a centralized bank or a central authority usually oversees the runnings of the currency. So they're allowed to print the currency at will, and but with a cryptocurrency, with a cryptocurrency, that is not allowed. There's a certain number of cryptocurrencies that have been mined that it will never go beyond that number. So that's where the scarcity of cryptocurrencies being money, that's where that comes in. We also saw that they both can be used, or both need to be viewed as something that can be used as a means of exchange, right? So if people don't, and which is kind of what is happening right now, a lot of people aren't really, they don't really see Bitcoin as a proper means of exchange. And so that's not being used as a form of money, right? And so we learned a couple of things in that video, I hope. But as I said earlier, governments are now trying to create their own digital currencies. And the question is why? Why would a central bank now be creating its own, or creating, its own digital currency? What is the need or the purpose of a CBDC? All right, so I'm going to play another video now, which talks about why central banks want to launch digital currencies. And this is a very key, very good video to watch, pay keen attention to, because there are a lot of interesting points that we can talk about in this video. And after this video, we'll bring in Mr. Patterson to get his thoughts. Where are we now? Okay, so watch this video and we'll come back and discuss further.
The Bank of England became the first public bank to regularly issue banknotes
as an alternative to coins as a means of payment. 3 centuries later, it's primarily tasked with maintaining price stability, much like any other central bank across the world. But these cautious institutions are now buzzing with talk of a revolutionary concept, a form of money you cannot see: central bank digital currencies.
When you ask central banks around the world whether they are exploring CBDC, 1 year ago the answer was 80% of them were exploring, and now it's nearly 90%. Last year 40% were experimenting, and now it's 60%. The vast majority of central banks are exploring CBDC.
The idea of digital money is not new. Many of us use debit and credit cards or payment apps for transactions. But what would make a central bank digital currency different? One of the big financial developments over the last few years has been the rise in popularity of cryptocurrencies, with one in particular, Bitcoin, standing out. Following Tesla's announcement that it bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin in February 2021, the volatile cryptocurrency's price surged to new highs, giving it a theoretical market capitalization that is even larger than the world's 2 largest payments processing companies, Visa and MasterCard. Unlike traditional money, cryptocurrencies are not issued by a central bank, but rather via a decentralized network of computers, typically using blockchain technology. Even Facebook is trying to get in on the act, with the 2019 announcement that it would develop its own digital currency, known at the time as Libra, and now rebadged as Diem.
And so at that point, central bankers started to realize that they were really under some threat. And the question became, if we can't beat them, do we join them?
Investors in Bitcoin believe that because there is a theoretical cap on the number of bitcoins that can ever be mined, the cryptocurrency will become increasingly valuable at a time when central banks have been printing more money than ever before to arrest the economic fallout from the pandemic. That's why people sometimes call Bitcoin digital gold. Many central banks are worried that the widespread adoption of these independent cryptocurrencies could weaken their control over the financial system. This could cause financial instability, especially because cryptocurrencies do not have the legal or the regulatory safeguards that central bank money does. So why not issue a digital currency of their own? Currently, regular bank deposits, cash, and cryptocurrencies issued by the private sector, such as Diem and Bitcoin, all have a few features that make them useful. But the hope is that publicly available CBDCs would have all these desirable characteristics. Unlike your savings in a commercial bank, which rely on the bank's promise to fulfill, CBDCs are recognized by law and backed by the power of the central bank, which cannot go bankrupt. For example, if a commercial bank collapses, part of your savings could potentially be wiped out. But this wouldn't be the case for CBDCs, which could be as trusted as cash, as convenient as a payment app, yet also benefit from the same blockchain technology which underpins cryptocurrencies. And, just like cash, CBDCs could be distributed through commercial banks, avoiding too much disruption to the financial system, or the central bank having to deal directly with many millions of citizens and businesses.
Think of banknotes, which are the closest equivalent to central bank digital currency we have today. except that they're on paper, of course. This is money that is issued by the central bank and used daily in retail payments. The central bank sells banknotes to commercial banks, and then the commercial banks distribute banknotes through ATMs to their clients.
This means that everyone could have access to this digital currency, which could bring a lot of benefits. It could make payments faster, allowing for immediate settlements and no processing delays, and it could also make payments cheaper. In the US, the aggregate cost of making retail payments ranges from 0.5% to 0.9% of GDP. Digital currencies would reduce those costs. It also means that more people could have access to electronic payments. Currently, over 1.5 billion adults across the globe don't have access to the financial system, and even in an advanced economy such as the US, more than 6% of Americans don't have a bank account. Issuing digital currencies could also make it easier for governments to deliver stimulus checks, or even go one step further and make targeted payments to those deemed most in need. So how soon could central bank digital currencies become a reality? China is the major economy which is most advanced in its CBDC development. The People's Bank of China has been running tests of its digital currency since April 2020 with the help of 4 banks in the country. Tens of thousands of consumers have already been involved with the pilot, spending 2 billion yuan in over 4 million transactions. For China, it could also be a means of reasserting control over a financial system challenged by the rapid growth of fintech companies.
Ant Pay and WeChat, I mean, these are the dominant payment technologies in China, and they are in the hands of Alibaba and Tencent. And if Beijing can wrest that back, then I think they will. And the way that they've set up the e-yuan is that it will still be effectively very integrated with the commercial banks, but it is effectively a direct challenge to the payment technologies. They are trying to ultimately displace them. The e-yuan is going to have its own digital wallet.
Right.
At the commercial bank, and over time people will probably just find it more convenient to use that, and thereby displacing Ant Pay, for example.
There may also be a geopolitical consideration for China, providing a mechanism to shift away from using the US dollar.
There's no doubt that Beijing views the US dollar as a strategic advantage that the US has. The problem is that most of the trade, the real world trade, is denominated and invoiced in US dollars, right? And China sees this, and it's very hard for them to sort of push RMB into the global financial system, the global trading system, but they're trying. But if they had a digital currency, that would be potentially a really fascinating angle. So you can see, if it's got a technological advantage, that perhaps this is a way for people to think about the RMB in a different way, and perhaps, ultimately start to chip away at the hegemonic status of the dollar.
But it's not just China. The European Central Bank has plans for a digital euro, although it may be a few years before it is available.
We are going to have to address all the issues of anti-money laundering, financing of terrorism, privacy of users and all the information, the appropriate technology that will carry that digital currency. And this is, a project that will probably take us 2, 3, 4 years before it is launched.
This has got people wondering whether issuing a central bank digital currency could interfere with the effectiveness of monetary policy.
Central banks have addressed CBDC so far is really as part of a payment discussion. That's a discussion for monetary policy committees, for the ECB Governing Council, whether they want to use CBDC or not. But it's too early to have that discussion.
But theoretically, if the central bank wanted, they could also pass on negative rates to the holders of central bank digital currencies.
Think of CBDC as being the future of banknotes. Banknotes do not bear interest. And so if you follow that line of reasoning, then CBDC should not bear interest. And if you want CBDC to bear interest, then you're creating something different.
A lot depends on how much people would use CBDCs, and no central bank wants them to completely replace traditional cash, but rather to complement it. One risk associated with CBDCs is that in an extreme situation, such as after a financial crash, you could see people withdrawing their deposits from commercial banks and opting to store their money in digital currencies backed by the central bank.
Trouble would be if CBDC would replace bank deposit in a large amount, because then what happens is that savers could shift their saving from bank account to CBDC. Then banks could have a problem for funding. This might have an effect on the financing of the whole economy. People can shift their saving from bank account to CBDC just with a click. And this would be very dangerous, obviously.
As we move towards a more cashless society, will central bank digital currencies ever become as trusted and as convenient as banknotes? Quite possibly, though it may take months, maybe even years.
The trust in private money is built on the trust on the currency and the fact that behind that there is a central bank which has tools to keep the value of the currency. We have to buy this trust, and that's why we need to stay into the economy. And the way to stay into the economy is to make sure that people trust us.
Thank you for watching. Would you ever use a central bank digital currency? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.
Okay, so very informative video there. One thing that stood out to me in that video, and I hope it caught your guys' ears as well, is the whole idea that the central banks are really doing the CBDC thing to maintain their control over over the financial industry. They don't want the other digital currencies to weaken their control of the financial industry. I'm going to bring in Mr. Patterson now and get his views on this CBDC matter. Good evening, Mr. Patterson. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Harper. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So I was just talking about the video that we just showed, and what stood out to me is just how hard or how much the central banks are working to keep their control over money, or what we consider to be money. Give us your take on well, that video first, and then we go into other things.
Sure. I mean, the purpose of the and this is very important, the purpose of the central bank, just think about it. If you go back in history, you would have heard that one of the most important things to communism, to any dictatorship, is centralization. They do not like to have any form of, what you call it now, they hate diversity, they hate distributed networks. They do not like it when things are not centralized and controlled by them. So the very purpose of a central bank is control. That's the purpose of a central bank, is control. Now, if you go back into banking history further, you'd realize that when they created central banks, this was coming out of an idea by the banking cartels of the day that if they can centralize the banking process, they will have greater control over the nation's money supply.
Right.
Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who you elect for its government. Okay? That is attributed to one of the famous banking cartel leaders in the history of the world. I won't call his name. So the idea is, if you can control a nation's money, you don't need to be elected. And so if you look at how central banks has evolved, the way they're supposed to work in every country, the central bank must be the central bank that controls the nation's money supply. But it must be independent of the politicians. That is the central bank must be independent of the politicians. What does that mean?
Yes.
Now, if you make the central bank independent of the politicians, who are the politicians? The politicians are those who are elected to govern the country, to make sure that laws and regulations are in place so that we, the people, can live and go about our lives knowing that we have laws that would protect our rights and protect us, and a government that is paying attention to all the public matters that can affect us. Now, when you take money away from the politicians, away from the political process, You have just taken away the most important element in any country, because all countries must have an economy, and every economy is run based on money. Money is the second half of every equation. Almost every transaction you do in life, money is one half of that transaction. One half is the product that you buy or sell, and the other half is the means by which you pay for or get compensated for that product. So when you take the monetary system out of the domain of the politicians and place that in the domain of an independent body, what does that mean? Who is this independent body? Where do they get their instructions from? Where do they get their wisdom from? Where do they get their guidance from? What principles are they following? Who sets those principles? Well, there you have it. Who sets it? Well, every central bank in the world is tied to a central authority outside of their country, including the US. So even though the main central authority is resident in the US, it is not accountable to the citizens of the US. It's not accountable to the Congress of the US. It is accountable to people we don't know.
Right.
You don't see them every day. You never elected them. You don't see their resumes. You don't know what it is. So what we have is a system of centralized control, which is paramount to a communist or a dictatorship system. So the goal of central banks is to centralize the control of money, and by extension, centralize the control of your economy, and by extension, centralize control of you, we the people.
And so with what's happening now with digital currencies, central banks have decided to be in the game, so to speak.
Sorry?
So central banks are now creating these digital currencies so that they won't be kind of left behind. Is that the case?
There are two parts to it. Remember, what you have today as a monetary system was designed by them. And there's a history to that. We can look at the history. But it was designed for them. Now, in 1971, August 1971, the president of the US severed the tie between the US dollar and the gold standard. So it used to be that the US dollar is supposed to have in its vaults the equivalent amount of gold for all the US dollars it produces and pushes out into the global economy, because the US is a global dollar, right? It's used in petrol purchases. It's used in almost every import and export activities around the world. Almost all major international purchases are denominated in US dollars, or at least it used to be. It still is to a large degree, but it's beginning to shrink a little bit, but it's still quite significant. Now, when the US severed gold from the US dollar fully, they'd done it before at a micro level. You might not know this, but there's a time in US history when the government outlawed the owning of gold. So you as a person couldn't own gold. This is when the US began to move from being a free country on a steady march towards communism and socialism, where the government feels it is now our parent. It is responsible for dictating our choices. And that's one of the biggest moments in American history, when the US government decided to announce that you are not allowed to own gold. You need to bring this in and turn it in and get some paper for it, get some fiat currency for it. But in 1971, Richard Nixon completed that process and completely severed the two. This now allowed the US to commit fraud, because before it would have said that every dollar we issue, we have gold for it. So all the other countries who had reserve US dollars in their accounts knew that they would have gold backing that in the US. When Richard Nixon did that, he has now defaulted on America's promise, defaulted on the agreement that they had at Bretton Woods that the US would have had gold to back the money. because they have defaulted. And why did they default? Because the US had lied. They had defrauded the world by printing far more US dollars than gold reserves that they had. So because they defrauded the world, they've done something illegal. Very important to know. They are now a criminal. The US government was now a criminal. It had broken the international law, which it was a part of. Now, what does a criminal do when he has power to legislate or power to force laws on others, as they did? They simply changed the rules and said, okay, we don't need to back our money anymore with gold as of now. And they give you some funny, nice story. It is because the US dollar is strong and because we want to preserve the economy and preserve purchasing power, we're doing this. Nice words. And in the end, what they did was to defraud people. Now, going on from that, what happened since then? They now needed to go around and get all the rest of the countries in the world to change their banking system to plug into this fiat currency now, debt-based economy, where the governments were no longer to print their own money to fund their own internal growth and only borrow at interest from others if their economy is suffering some big impact that required them to get external money into the system. So what they did was to say, no, do not follow a system where you print your own money and use your own money to grow your own economy slowly or whatever. We want you now to stop your government from doing that and create central banks where you will borrow money. Your central banks will now borrow money from the private markets to support you, or you will borrow from the private markets to support you, but primarily from an international monetary fund and other international banking conglomerates and so on. This was going to now ensure that your country would grow deeper and deeper into debt, because every dollar you borrow, you're going to pay compound interest on that dollar. So let's say you borrow $1 today. You can't pay it off right away. So after year one, you still owe that $1, but now you owe $1.05. Year two, you still owe the $1. You pay down a little bit, but now you still owe $1.20. The following year, pay down a little more, but you still owe $1.30. And it keeps going up. What that's doing is pulling out now the wealth of the nation. So you're now doing slavery in a hidden form of slavery, because now you are now reaching into the country, and as hard as the people work, as hard as they work, you have to tax them and take out a piece of that money and send it to America or send it to the lenders. And sometimes those lenders are in your own country. Banks that are a part of that fraudulent banking system, where you give them something called fractional reserves, where they can now lend money into the local economy at interest, but not having earned that money in the first place. The bank didn't do anything to earn it. They just got a law in place, a legislation that says, if you put $1 on reserve here in the central bank, you can lend out $2. The extra dollar you're lending is just a made-up number. It's just adding some digits in the system and say, okay, because I put $1 here, I'm authorized by the central bank to lend $2. And the $2 you lend now, you're going to collect interest on that. But remember, you never earned that $1. So you're now earning a lie. You're earning something fraudulent. But that fraud is legislated. The government was dictated to by the foreign masters, say, put this into your legislation and call it Banking Act, a Banking Act. And they put all kind of colorful words around it, thick pages, whole heap of words, whole heap of jargons. But it's very simple. They're now going to thief the wealth of the people, because if they're able to lend money they didn't earn, it means their risk is very low, pretty much zero. But they're lending it to you now to buy a house, and it's all structured that it will take you 25, then later 35, then later 40. Now they even have 50-year mortgages. What does that mean? It means you have to work forever to pay off these mortgages. So what are they doing? Again, it's slavery through the back door, because now they have gotten you to suffer for the next 30 or 40 years trying to pay off a mortgage, which means you will not be investing in your retirement. So you have to work longer. You will not be able to achieve financial freedom anytime soon. So you'll work right down to the end, but they have a plan for that too. They're already going to make sure the food that you eat are such that you're not going to be very healthy by the time you hit your 65th birthday. So now they're going to get some of your money, whatever little bit you save, they're going to pull that out too into pharmaceutical products and all kind of operations to try to stay alive. Nobody wants to die. So as long as you can hang on, you're going to hang on. So you're going to pay out the rest of that money. So by the time they finish with you, how different are you from a slave? Well, you dress up in nice clothes, you had a nice looking home, you were driving a car, and you thought you were free. But the truth is, you have been a slave for the last 30, 40, 50 years.
Wow. Wow. Heavy stuff, guys. But to get back to the CBDC, you mentioned earlier about the central bank being the regulatory or the central authority and being controlled, but by whom? And especially now that I don't know if many of you know this, or you should know this, our Bank of Jamaica is no longer owned by the government of Jamaica or the people of Jamaica. Could you speak to that, Mr. Patterson?
Sure. So I think what we're now in 22, in early 2021, while we were all busy wearing our mask, social distancing, washing our hands, and scared to death about a virus we don't understand or couldn't see, while we were worried sick about that, the government was busy pushing through regulations written for them by their colonial masters that says the Central Bank of Jamaica is now independent of the government of Jamaica. Now, to be honest, it was already independent before that, but they needed to make it law. Before they were operating illegally. Actually, they were operating an independent central bank when they were still required by law not to be an independent central bank. But in about January of 2021, again, just through this COVID period, while we were busy washing our hands, social distancing, covering up with masks, they were busy pushing through legislations, both for the CBDC, by the way, and for the SEC, because all of these things are pre-written. Our dummy politicians never write these laws and regulations. If you notice, the whole world is going CBDC at the same time. Right. The whole world is going central bank. So it's not any independent thought. Andrew Holness isn't sitting there like I am and we are and independently thinking about our country and trying to plan our country's development. They're not doing any independent thinking. They are simply parroting what they're told to say and puppeting what they're pulled to do. So we have a government which is not even a government. We don't have a government. We have some talking heads. We have some people there who are just sitting around with somebody on a string like this saying, okay, lift this foot now, lift that hand now, go here, go there, say this now like a parrot. And that's what it is. So while we were busy being forced, coerced, and tricked into taking some injection out of the fear of losing our life from a virus that we still don't understand, they were busy at work when we were all supposed to stay home. They were busy at work drafting legislation, or rather photocopying legislations, cutting and pasting legislations, and pushing that through our parliament without our involvement. We never elected them on a platform that said, when you elect us, we're going to be bringing a CBDC to you. When you elect us, we're going to be making our bank independent of you. They didn't tell us any of this. They only got 21% of the voting population, but they have made massive changes to our lives on 21%. And one of those changes was on January of 2021 to say the Bank of Jamaica is now independent of the government and it will be constituted following rules and regulations that will keep them separate from us. In other words, now that we're suffering inflation at alarming rates, the government says, well, That's not my job. That's not my, that's over at the central bank and they're independent. We can't really do anything about that because it's over there. Lie. They have abdicated their responsibility. They should be prosecuted. I was going to say more. They should be charged for treason for this. But the Jamaican people don't have a clue. The Jamaican people don't know nothing. They don't understand any of this. All I'm saying here right now, if I go on public television and say this, one, they'll call me a liar. Two, they'll say I'm a madman. And three, the people will be like, huh? What did he just say? They don't understand any of this. They weren't sitting down long enough to hear exactly what this means. So what does it mean? It means that our government will import inflation, which is what the whole banking system is designed to do. So we are importing the inflation created by the US printing billions of dollars and pushing it into the wider market. So we import that inflation. So we suffer that. Meanwhile, our politicians made sure that we can't produce our own food. So we're not food secure. So we are at the mercy of the global supply chain foolishness and the high inflation created by their oversupply of money. Because remember now, America, they can print as much money as they want because they will not be held to account for it because all of that is pushed off to the rest of us. Yeah. But if we had politicians who mean us any good now, they would be able to see all of this and say, not my country, not here, so. And they'll be able now to really craft policies and legislations that would protect us from the beast, from the dragon, from these horrible people who are systematically stealing our wealth by enslaving us through the back door. So in short, the Central Bank of Jamaica is a crooked arrangement that is designed by those who control our government to rip off the Jamaican people each and every day. No matter how hard you work, they're going to be squeezing you and pulling as much money out of you as possible.
Wow. So, having said all of that, the Bank of Jamaica has recently, what should I say, launched this new CBDC project. I'm going to play a video for you guys that basically is going to give you an understanding of what this will mean coming into Jamaica. So, they've been talking about this new CBDC called Jam-Dex, and they've partnered with, I think it's NCB, with, I think the app is called Link or Links. And that's the digital wallet, and that you're going to store your digital currency, and all nice, lovely things. They've done a great campaign, marketing campaign of getting people on board. The government has also, made promises of giving people free CBDC digital currency in your digital wallet if you applied for the digital wallet within a certain time. So all these lovely things, but I just want to play this video for you guys so you can get an understanding of what this could mean down the road, right? Further down the road. So take a look at this video, and when we get back, we'll talk.
The UK government will soon be introducing fundamental changes in how money works. The changes are being planned by central banks around the world, including the UK's central bank, the Bank of England. These changes, once introduced, will affect everyone.
So, what are these changes really about? The changes being proposed will mean that you will no longer have full control over your spending. In fact, what they are planning is the replacement of money with something which is fundamentally different. Therefore, it's not just cash they want to remove from the economy, it is money itself. Pay attention, because if the new monetary system is allowed to happen, it will be very difficult to reverse and could mark the beginning of the end of human freedom. In order to explain the changes that are being planned right now for your tomorrow, let's explain a little bit about how your money works today. Let's imagine that John decides to buy his daughter a birthday present from Argos. He chooses the product he wants, then pays £50 using his debit card. You might think that £50 is immediately transferred from John's bank account to Argos's bank account. But this is not what happens. A record is created showing that John's bank owes Argos's bank £50, and John's account will even show that the money has left his account, but the actual transfer of funds does not occur at the time of purchase. John's £50 purchase is one of about 50 million UK transactions that occur every day, and although in each case the account may show that the money has been transferred, the actual movement of funds between the banks only occurs once every day. Every 24 hours, all the payments made to and from each of the UK's 300 plus registered banks are added up to determine how much each bank owes the others. The Bank of England, which is the central bank that all other banks in the system are connected with, derives the total amount that each bank owes and is owed for that day. The Bank of England then intermediates and exchanges funds between all the other banks. So the Bank of England does not know anything about John or the £50 he spent on his daughter. John's money is just a tiny part of a huge transfer of funds. This means that the only organisation that can see what John does with his money is his own bank. The central bank cannot see what John spends his money on or when he spends it. And John's bank is under an obligation not to share details of his spending with anyone. This means that, rightly, there is a good degree of anonymity and privacy over what John decides to spend his money on. This, in turn, means that a government or central authority, such as the Bank of England, cannot directly restrict John when he uses his debit card, because it has no visibility of what John is doing with his money. If John had paid for the present with £50 of cash, then the purchase would be completely anonymous. Nobody, including John's bank, would know what he had spent his money on. So cash transactions are truly anonymous, and debit card transactions have a high degree of anonymity because only your bank can know about them. So what is this new system? The name of the new system is called Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. It sometimes has other names, such as smart money. Here's how it works. Let's imagine that John, again, decides to buy his daughter a birthday present from Argos. His mobile phone has a smart money wallet or app on it, from which he pays £50 for the product. The app communicates directly with the central bank, the Bank of England, and the money is transferred from his digital wallet to Argos's digital wallet in less than a second. The transfer of funds occurs at the time of purchase, and the transaction is recorded and approved by a centralized computer system on a centralized blockchain. A blockchain is a special computer program that records information very reliably and cannot be amended. The centralized computer system runs continuously and can deal with hundreds of transactions per second as they occur throughout the entire economy, processing all of the public's purchases being made by millions of digital wallets. This sounds fantastic and is so much quicker and simpler than the old system. But there is a fundamental difference, which is that all transactions are centralized in real time as they happen. In other words, one system will be able to know about every single digital transaction in the economy as the transactions occur. This is the critical difference with the new digital monetary system that everyone needs to be aware of. All transactions are centralized in real time as they happen. The people who are planning this new system have made it clear that it would be useful, in their eyes, to use artificial intelligence algorithms in real time to block certain public transactions for a range of different reasons. So what does this mean for John? Let's just say there is another lockdown and the government want to stop the public moving about the country. With this new system, they could introduce a simple change. That would mean John's wallet would only work if he was located within a certain distance of his own home. Argos is 2 miles from John's house, and he decides to go and buy his daughter a birthday present. He attempts to pay £50 for the product with the app. The app communicates directly with the Bank of England's computer system, and the system rejects John's payment before it is made, because the system knows that John is 2 miles from his own home, and John's wallet has been limited to spending within just 1 mile. John cannot now buy anything unless he moves closer to his own home. His money is now useless if he wants to go anywhere. Why doesn't John just use cash? That would be a good solution for John, as long as cash is still in use. So, how might this new system be introduced?
The Prime Minister called an emergency meeting today to discuss the unprecedented slide into economic recession in the UK and global economies. Inflation is out of control, and high interest rates are causing thousands of house repossessions. All cash points and over-the-counter cash services are now frozen, and millions of people face losing their life savings as a number of high street banks are declared insolvent. The government and the Bank of England are accelerating the introduction of a new central bank digital currency, which all bank customers in the UK will be able to receive in exchange for their existing money, which in many cases is now unobtainable from their bank accounts. Governments say that the new digital money will help the economy recover from recession and will be used to bail out public and corporate money currently held in millions of bank accounts by banks that are at the point of collapse.
It says cash unobtainable from this account. It's frozen our money.
Bleeding hell, John. How much have we got in the house?
We've only got £120, and when that's gone, nothing.
I don't believe it. The bank's frozen our money.
We've got £25,000 in that account, and no way of getting it back.
Download your central bank Cbdc wallet app today and get bonus digital pounds free. If you exchange your existing bank funds into your digital currency wallet now, you will receive free digital pounds for each account you exchange. You can then spend from your digital wallet by using your phone app, exactly like a debit card. Download the free app now from the UK government website or the App Store.
John, we need to download the digital wallet thing. See if we can transfer it in.
We've got no other option, love. Well, it's transferred, and it's given us some bonus money. I can't believe it.
How do you know it's worked?
It's worked, love. Everyone's using this money now. Right, I'm off down Tesco to try it out. Sorted.
Recent figures show that the public's use of cash has halved in the last 12 months. Experts say this is due to the success and sheer convenience of the new Cbdc digital money. The government has announced that all cash will be phased out completely over the next 3 years.
I can't remember the last time I used cash. It seems so cumbersome and old-fashioned, fiddling about with coins every time you want to buy something. It's much easier now. Have you seen the remote control, love? Look what I found. Remember these?
What are you going to do with that?
Well, I don't know.
Look, why don't we keep it? I'll put it in a picture frame.
My name's Charlie.
Recent data from the annual Climate Change Conference has revealed that only a drastic reduction in fossil fuel use will help protect against climate change. The government has limits on petrol and diesel use for all individuals in the UK, which will be enforced using smart money. Each wallet will be limited to a purchase of 15 litres per week, after which the wallet will be prevented from making any further purchases in that week.
Ah, bollocks.
Growing concerns over obesity and bad health will be tackled using the Smart Money Network. The government proposes to limit the total number of sugary foods that each digital wallet can purchase in any given month.
What?
Experts say that the new pandemic, which is 10 times more contagious and deadly than coronavirus, can only be defeated by minimising all human contact and staying home as much as possible. In order to enforce this, all digital wallets will only work within 1 mile of the address at which they are registered. Shopping times will be staggered so that you can only make purchases for a 2-hour period each day. All non-essential item purchases will be rejected.
Jesus Christ.
The government, in a move to stimulate growth in the economy, is trying to ensure that all benefit money paid out to the public is spent within an appropriate time period. From the 1st of August, all benefit payments, including the new social credits, should be spent within 2 months of receiving them. Benefit money will expire and be of no use if it is not spent within the 2-month period.
Blimey, they're putting a shelf life on money.
Vaccination uptake for the latest pandemic is now at 95%. Anyone who has not been vaccinated will have restrictions placed on their wallets. For the 5% unvaccinated, spending will only be allowed at certain times and within 1 mile of home. Certain goods, such as alcohol, travel tickets and restaurant purchases, will not be available for those who have not been vaccinated, and their digital wallets will not work outside of the UK.
Wow.
Concerns are growing over people who grow and supply their own food outside of government-approved companies. The government will be restricting the purchase of all seeds and other farming products for anyone that is not a registered farmer.
What are they doing that for?
The government is trying to reduce the amount of red meat people eat in their diet for environmental and health reasons. Digital wallets will only be allowed to purchase 8 ounces of red meat per week.
How much is 8 ounces?
In order to protect the environment, the government is introducing limitations on the amount each wallet will be able to spend on the following products: aerosol cans, single-use plastics, coal, meat, chocolate, fish and coffee.
What about fags?
In a move to encourage good behaviour, the government is awarding digital currency direct to your wallet if you report on anyone breaking lockdown rules or report on individuals expressing extremist views. Anyone deemed to be expressing extremist views may in turn have restrictions placed on their wallets.
What's that mean, extremist views?
If you give up your cash, you will give up freedom for yourself, and you will give up the freedom of generations to come. It's not the convenience of the new money that is important. What is important is the fact that centralized administration of smart money could be used to control every aspect of your life. Say yes to keeping cash and say no to centrally controlled smart money. What they are going to propose is not money, it is a social control system. Please spread this message.
Right, so very, very powerful video, guys. I hope you were watching keenly and seeing how, how the government is able to move from, the CBDC thing being, yeah, just get your CBDC, get your digital wallet, and then, you move from that to, nobody's using cash anymore because it's so convenient to have, this digital wallet that you're able to use to buy anything anywhere. So we don't need to have cash. Let's phase that out. And when that happens, I mean, all hell can break loose, literally. I mean, they will literally have you in the palm of their hands. And by they, I mean the government or whomever is controlling your money. So let's bring in Mr. Patterson. And let's talk about how do you see this playing out in Jamaica? The CBDC and the control or the lack of anonymity. How can the government use that to their benefit?
Well, first of all, what they're going to do, and they're doing it right now. So first of all, they will market the CBDC to us. Will announce,
Yeah, you're breaking up now. You're breaking up. Yes, you're breaking up. Let's see if it will your connection will come back. So your video is frozen and the audio breaking up. All right, so while we wait for Mr. Patterson to get that sorted, I just found it so interesting, the video, how, the incremental step-by-step, how the government, and in that case, in the video, it's the government of England, how they would be able to literally have control over what you spend and how you spend it. As Mr. Patterson was saying earlier, it's going to. Okay, he's back. Let's see if his audio is. Oh,
sorry. Can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you loud and clear now. Yes.
Yeah. This happens to us religiously, especially when we get to a certain meaty point, then
yes,
this always happens. So, and by the way, I'm not using Wi-Fi. I'm fully connected into the system. I have backup systems. I've had to, my internet is one of the most expensive in the world. You wouldn't want to know how much I pay. I have 3 systems of redundancies, 3 systems in order to try to have good internet. And I'm getting from 3 different service portals, Anyways, your question was how is the government going to benefit from this? How are they using it, right? Okay, So first of all, they're marketing to us. They're going to tell us about the virtues. They're going to particularly sell to us convenience. This is convenient. This is better. This is, for example, to sign up for the CBDC, everybody can get an account now. You notice that?
Yeah.
There is no issue. You've been suffering for years. You still can't go and get a regular bank account. But everybody can now get a CBDC. It doesn't matter. You don't have to live nowhere. You can get a CBDC account. That's number 1. It's very convenient. Number 2. Number 3, you're going to find that your ATM machines will be less and less populated with cash. So you're going to find it harder to get cash from the ATM machines. You're going to find the bank lines even more longer and painful to get your money out of the banks. You're going to find that the government will want to pay you. So if you want to get your money quickly from the government, if you are a supplier to the government or an employee of the government or doing anything with the government, you're going to find the quickest and easiest and most efficient way to get anything done will be the CBDC. So if you want to get on with your life, if you want to step into the modern era and get things done fast, get your Jam-Links or Jam-Dex account. That is the strategy. So by the time they're finished with you, you will find every reason to just go get this. And by the way, they will offer you some free CBDC money as well. Nothing beats free. Sign up today for your Jam-Links account or whatever it is, or Jam-Dex, and you're going to get some free money. Okay? Just like how they gave you a free education and made us some of the dumbest people in the world with our free education. Just like how they gave us our free healthcare and we're suffering and afraid to even go to the hospital because it's free. So now you're going to get some free Jam-Links money as well because the government loves you and cares about you and wants everything that's best for you. So after they've done all of that, then they're going to start coming down hard. Once they get certain buying and more people have bought him, you'll now see the dragon. So the switch now from the lamb-like approach, the nice, sweet, cuddly approach with the nice advertisement, then it's going to be, if you don't get your Jam-Links account, you're a bad person. You're not a good person. You're not a smart person. You're not getting with the times, and you need to suffer, just like they did with the injection. They
I was
started
going
out
to say the
nice
same
before,
thing.
yeah, nice before. Let's save lives and livelihoods. We're here for you. We want you. No, we're not going to force anything. Just go get it. It's good for you. And then afterwards, no water if you don't go and get it, and all kind of negative stuff. And you're bad, and we're going to deal with you, and so on and so forth. And we're just going to force it on you. So that's exactly what will be done with the CBDC. They are going to go from nice to coercion, force, and they're going to force it on you. And you're going to find that you're going to be less able to conduct business or engage in any form of commerce without the CBDC. Okay? Just imagine the person who sells in the marketplace. They're going to find, yes, they're trying to collect cash in the marketplace for their goods, but then when they need to go buy something now that they need that is not sold in the market, they can't buy it. They need to get their Jam-Links on their smartphone. So, and almost everybody have a smartphone, right? Most people. So now they're going to go and get their smartphone, get their wallet, and little by little, they're going to move us all onto this platform. And then once they have a certain uptake ratio in the region of 60 to 70%, and the coercion kicks in and it gets to 80%, then the rest of you, that 20% or that 15%, God help you, dog and damn you supper. They're going to hound you. They're going to crucify you. They're going to massacre you until you bend and bow and worship that statue of Babel. Okay? You are going to, we, all of us, are going to have to bow down and worship at that statue's feet if we do not now take steps to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And, you know, just going back to the whole experience over the last 2 years, it's just amazing how the government was able to get their own citizens, you know, to turn against you now. So your next door neighbor who you used to talk to, you and them was friend and brethren, and you decide you're not going to take, you know, this substance in your body, and they took the substance. They're now looking at you and saying, brethren, where you doing? What's up with you? You know, and so now it's again division, right? So we divided with politics, but now they're using this as another form of division, dividing the people, and you know.
And here, what's going to happen again, Sir Harper, when they finally get us on this system, okay? They will be able to eliminate all of their political opponents. I'll tell you how they're going to do that. They will now have, right now, they don't know how I make my money. They don't fully understand how I make money. They can guess, they've investigated me. They have investigated me. They've tried to find everything they could possibly find, and they can't find anything. You might recall when some people were trying to destroy me, they tried to put innuendos out there and try to say all kind of stuff. I know they can't find anything on me. That's because I'm clean. You can't find nothing because I'm clean. And they can't believe there's any clean person in Jamaica because they're dirty. But anyways, what they're going to do now with their political opponents, they're going to know everything. Remember, you know, the powers that be don't want people like me to be doing anything in politics. Right. They want people like them to be doing something in politics. People who will follow their orders. People who will mislead their own people and carry them to the edge of the cliff and push them off. Their own people. People who would be willing to tell the Jamaican people that a particular drug or a particular medication that they know nothing about, they have no training in science and technology to be able to fully understand an emerging technology that is being advocated as a medicine. That prime minister had no knowledge, like the rest of us. He don't know nothing. But yet still he's willing to tell the Jamaican people that that is something from God, and that it is natural, and that them need to take it. And then that same leader gets angry at his own people for wanting the right to say, I would like to reserve my right to say whether or not I take it. I just want the freedom to make that choice for myself. That same leader then seek to push and coerce teachers, and then push and coerce children and corner parents. You want that kind of person there to have control over what is coming? No, watch what happens. That kind of person will then be able to look to get information about your purchases, your income, who is paying you, who you are paying, how much you're paying, when you're paying it, where you're paying it, and then they can map out all of your movements and actions, and then they can eliminate you. They can frame you. They can destroy you and eliminate all political competition and ensure a perfect dictatorship that still looks like a democracy. Looks like a democracy, while they know behind the scene how they are right now they're trying to eliminate me. Right now, they're doing everything possible covertly to eliminate me and destroy the UIC. Right now, they're doing every day they wake up. How can we make sure that that little movement doesn't break out, that they don't reach the Jamaican people, that we sabotage them at every way and every angle possible? Just imagine when they now have this full handle, I should say, and the angle and the handle, when they have those pieces fully cornered and their friends at the top, okay, because they're just middlemen. Andrew, Mark, PNP, JLP, they're just middlemen. They actually, nothing they tell you, don't believe it. All of it is just fantasy world. No solutions they tell you about, no matter how fanciful and nice it sounds, it will never happen, because the system they serve, the masters they serve, the cabal to which they belong, does not and never will want the Jamaican people to prosper as a people. Yes, 1 and 2, we should prosper once we are a part of their system and we pray to their gods and follow their rules and their rituals. Yes, a few of us must be rich and wealthy, but the vast majority must remain slaves. And don't tell me you're not a slave. Not because you're wearing a jacket and a nice suit means you're not a slave. You are simply a well-dressed slave. We are all slaves in this system. Every day I wake up, I have to fight hard to maintain the value of my money, because they're every day ripping me off, stealing a portion of my money, stealing a portion of your money every day, like clockwork. It's designed into the system. Just imagine when we now have a CBDC and they can tell you that as of now, you have 30 days to spend the balance in your account before it is wiped out. Just think what you will do when you get that message. Everybody, you have 30 days to spend what is in your account, or it will be replaced. Or while you're sleeping and the economy, let's say the economy had $900 billion in it at one point, and they say, oh, tomorrow we have a grand idea. We're going to push another $900 billion into the economy because we want to spur the economy. We want to boost the economy. You know what that is going to do? That's going to chop the value of your money in half overnight. That's what that does. It doesn't boost the economy. It boosts somebody's profits and halves your wealth. So if you put money in your pension plan and you're saving hard, you're working 25 years, saving 10%, whatever percent of your pay, I'm saving towards my retirement, you're just losing. You shovel 10% in, it drops to 5%. You shovel another 10% in, it drops to 5%. And you're struggling and fighting, and you can never keep up. The only way to make it is if you're going to be ultra productive, ultra smart, like a few people who can create really good ideas and work hard and beat that system. But the average person, 90% of us, will not be able to do that. Now, if they weren't stealing your money, you could have simply gone to work for somebody normally, earn your wages, save 10%, because the bank would not have any free money to lend, they would have to borrow from you to lend, which will then increase the return on your investment. Other smart people will take your money and use it better than you. No problem. You are okay to settle with a 5% return on your money, or 7 or 8 or 9, depending on the real market. No problem. And when you retire, you won't be a multi-billionaire, but you'll be able to live a decent living. You'll be able to put your foot up and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Die a normal person, not having a big yacht and a massive bank account, but enough to survive on and be comfortable. No, they do not want that. They want you to live on the edge up until the day you die, always fretting about paying the property tax, which you shouldn't be paying. You should not be paying any property tax. Property tax is theft. Property tax is a rent on the property you already bought and own. I bought my land here. I bought 36 acres of land in this country with my hard-earned effort. I earned the money and come back to my country and buy it, and I am paying a rent every year to the government for what I work hard for and buy. Why am I paying a rent? Why are you paying a rent for your house? You bought your house, and every year you're getting a bill. Yeah? And my friends in Canada, I have friends in Canada, they're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year Canadian for property tax. What a trick. What a lie. What a theft. So that means as you get older, as you're getting older and your capacity to earn is decreasing, and remember, the monetary system is already a trick. So the value of your money is under serious pressure already. If you're getting a little pension money, that money is losing value fast too. Okay? And while your money is losing value fast and your house is aging, so you need to fix the roof, you need to fix the windows, you need to fix the plumbing, you need to fix the electrical, probably rotting away, whatever. The driveway is now messed up, you have to fix that. You have to find money. You're now 65, you're now hitting 70, but you have to find $5,000 to pay your property tax. You have to find, I'm using Canadian now because I'm very familiar with the easy market, $10,000 to fix your roof, $5,000 to replace your windows. Oh, by the way, your heating system, that just got busted. Find another $6,000 for that. Oh my God, the driveway is now tilted sideways. Oh, that's now $3,500. Oh my gosh, the car now is aged, not working properly. I need to fix the car, $2,500 for that. You see what I'm saying? But you're now 65, 75. And that pension dollar, which you thought was going to be something, is now dipping and dipping because of the inflation every day. This is wickedness, folks. This is crime. This is criminal. This is slavery through the back door. Not in chains anymore, not with whips and somebody standing over you fully. It's now your government that is your backer master. They carry the whip of regulations and policies that beats you into submission without you realizing it. And guess what? You vote for it too. You wake up every single day, every time they call election, and you get excited about which fancy candidate is there. Oh, I like that one. Oh, I like this one. Oh, did you see that? And you get all excited about all this stuff. It's a fake, guys. It's a trick. They're tricking you. And they give you opponents to fight against each other like a theater. And you get all caught up in the theatrics and you're getting all excited and you're laughing about the jokes and the hits and so on and the nice ads and whatever. You are wasting your time, wasting your life, and losing the value of your money with every ad that you watch on that television from those politicians. It's time we wake up. It's time for us to become educated and stop being tricked by these monsters and take back our country and take back our life and make Jamaica the country where everybody want to run where come to. Let us take over this country and make this country a truly free country where no slave no there, no squatters no there, no ghetto no there, no garrisons no there, only a decent economy designed to serve the interests of the people, all the people, and let the rest of the world envy us and want to come here because we would be the one true free country on the planet.
Yes. So in line with what you were just saying, Mr. Patterson, let's look at some of the UIC's policies and what is the UIC's position on CBDC. So first of all, foremost, let's look on what is the UIC's policy on CBDC.
Right. Our policy is to get rid of it. We do not support the CBDC. We're fully opposed to the CBDC. It is wrong. It is theft. It is fraudulent. It is simply the digitization of the current fraudulent system. If they do not do the CBDC, if they did not trick us with the pandemic and allow that system to just run, it would have exploded in our face.
Yeah.
And so it's exploding, but they have covered it up with a pandemic and tell us that it's the pandemic why we're now going through all of this. And then the solution is to digitize the problem. So when they digitize the problem, what they're doing, watch me carefully. If they did not bring in the CBDC, or if they do not bring in the CBDC, and we finally, as a people, as we are, more people are becoming aware, when we finally realize that, my God, they have tricked us for the last 50 years, and they have robbed us, and we the people, is pitchforks coming out, yeah? All of these politicians have to run and hide. No. By them tricking us with a pandemic and bringing in the CBDC, they're trying to tie our hands. Once we are dumb enough to allow them to take us down this road and lock us into the system where they will have complete control, all they're going to do, and I'll give you an example. In Canada, when the truckers said, enough is enough, and them go block the road between the US and Canada and block it up and say, enough is enough, what did they do? The government just turn off their money.
Yeah.
It's not even CBDC yet. And the government just went and tell PayPal, block their GoFundMe, block their account. Stop it.
Yeah.
Take all of that money from them. Don't give it to them. The government did that. Justin Trudeau showed us what will happen when they have maximum power and have the CBDC in their hand. If we ever allow this to go through, if we ever allow them to get this power over us, all bets are off. We're going to have to fight like, we don't want to fight now. We're lazy right now. Everybody lazy right now. Nobody now have time to donate enough money to the UIC for us to have 228 candidates. You know, I looked at the numbers today. About 169 of you are now donating to the UIC on a regular basis. 169. Thank you. God bless you. Really appreciate it. Far below what we need. Subtract 169 from 1,000. How much you have left? 8,031, right? 21, 8,021 or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, we need about, 800 and something. I'm thinking 10,000 now. We need over 831 more donors at $25 a month for us to be able to do what we need to do. Now, some of you are afraid to give. Some of you are waiting and seeing. You're waiting. I wonder how it's going to turn out. I hope the Jamaican people vote for them. I really hope they vote for them. No, they're not going to vote for us. If we don't get the money we need to put 228 candidates in those constituencies, in those divisions, and the 63 MPs, if we don't get enough money to go and talk to the Jamaican people, to travel around the country on gas that we can't afford, in vehicles that are mashing up on the road as we travel, I just drop in a pothole. When you don't know this, I don't know if you know this, Douglas, when we went to Bob Marley Beach the other day and to Lloydersville, at about 8 o'clock at night or somewhere there, we, my wife and I and Joe P, dropped in a big pothole. I mean, we couldn't see it. The road is so dark. This is a highway. This is a highway. Okay, this is a highway, a part of the highway infrastructure. No light on the road. It is as dark as hell, if you have ever been to hell. And on this road is a big pothole in the middle of the road, straddling both lanes. Okay, a massive crater. And we're driving ahead on this dark road. Our head beams are on, of course, and the car coming in front of us turn on their high beam and completely blinded us. And then we in, bam! Psst, wheel gone. And we have to stop now on this dark road. Dark road. Dark road. We have to stop now and change tire on one of the most dangerous stretches in Portmore. Okay? Who will pay for that? I paid my property tax, I paid my my income tax, I paid my registration, I pay my licensing fee, I pay my fitness. I did everything right. If I didn't do one of them right, Andrew will want to slap me with penalties. But he has done me a great injustice and I cannot get him to pay me. What kind of system that? I have to suffer the full cost and could have lost my life, my wife's life, and the other gentleman I had in the vehicle. We could have all been killed on the Dyke Road, dead at night, darkness. No, I'm saying all of this to say that if we, the people, do not get dead serious about this problem, I'm not doing this for entertainment. I know there are other bloggers, they have entertainment and ratings on their mind. They can say whatever they want to say and jazz people up and get excited. I am here for one purpose and one purpose only, for us to rescue Jamaica from this system and free our people and empower our people so that we can have a safe, clean, and orderly, free country here to live in. Not one where the government gets to coerce us or gets to control us. And the way for us to do that is to make sure we can elect a government that's going to change the constitution, change the system, and protect our individual sovereignty and our collective sovereignty. But back to your question. Remind me, what's the question again? Sorry. Or
Just
start a new one.
Yeah, so the question now is, so, you know, the UIC is big on personal responsibility, on individual liberty, and, you know, so how would the UIC, you said earlier that, you know, we're not going the route of CBDC. How would the UIC manage in the digital era?
No, we are going to have a digital currency. Not well, sorry, let me rephrase that. The UIC is going to make sure that Jamaica has digital money. Okay? So we're going to be using a digital money. It's now easier these days to say digital currency because they've programmed us. But let's remember, currency is fake money. What you need is real money. So the UIC is going to have a monetary policy whereby we only use real money in Jamaica. Okay? That's number one. What is real money? It's a money that is backed by the productivity of the people. So we're going to have our digital money being linked directly with the productivity of Jamaicans so that the purchasing power is maintained 100 years into the future. So if you earn $1,000 today in a UIC Jamaica, and that $1,000 can buy a set basket of grocery, 100 years into the future, that $1,000 will be able to still buy that set basket of grocery, except for one minor difference. There'll be items in the basket that might have become obsolete, so that's going to change. There'll be items in the basket that suffers natural inflation. For example, at the time you're trying to buy it, there's a natural shortage caused by the environment or nature or just low productivity for whatever reason. Once that happens, you'll have a disparity. But it will only be natural inflation, no more artificial inflation. So we're going to eliminate that. So we're going to have real money in Jamaica, in the UIC. We are going to use digital money because it's a very, very efficient and effective form of money. What we're not going to do is have a central authority that is able to see into your personal life and manage or manipulate or control you. That's going to be completely off limits. So we're going to have something similar to Bitcoin where the transaction can happen. It will behave fully like cash. So absolutely no transparency, no privacy laws, no privacy issues will be violated using our digital money. So complete privacy will be there. We will not try to use it as a tool of control or social engineering or even crime fighting. So we're not going to tell you that we're going to try to use this to fight crime. No, we're going to fight crime the real way. Create a safe environment where people have opportunity and children are well educated and parents are well empowered and businesses is plentiful and you have a lot of opportunities. And then those few who engage in activities, you lock them up and punish them. Simple as that.
Yeah. Question from that connector asking, and I'm sure it's going to be a yes, but we do not need to get rid of physical cash though, right, Mr. Patterson?
No, we don't need to get rid of it. I'm going to recommend that we do get rid of it. We don't need to. Physical cash is very, very expensive to create and maintain. Right now, Jamaica's physical cash is not created here in Jamaica. It requires sophisticated technology and setup to do so. It's very, very inefficient. What you can do, though, is to make your digital money like cash. So all the features of cash, which really is its, what do you call it now? Anonymity? How do you say that?
Anonymity, yeah.
Yeah, so you can use it without anybody tracing you. And my tongue is twisting on that one. So you will be anonymous. Yeah. So your transactions, the transactions will be in the blockchain. You will see it. You will know it's done, but you can't tell who and what they bought and who they bought it from. That's not traceable. Right. But the transaction is there in a distributed ledger that is visible to all. So anybody can check the ledger and see it. So the government will not be able to manipulate the volume of money or anything like that.
Okay. Okay, so the back to the UIC's position or policy. What is UIC's policy on building the economy?
On what, sorry?
On building the economy, sorry.
Oh, our policy on building the economy. Well, our policy is based on grassroots economics. We believe the best way to build an economy is to give the people their freedom. That's number one. Your laws must be very simple and very few. So the principle of the UIC, which is very important for all of us to understand, we believe that it's the right of every person to be free. That's number one. Like freedom is our mantra. We live for freedom of the individual. Secondly, how do you define that freedom? You have the right to do whatever you want with your life, your liberty, and your property. Yeah. So long as you do not use force or fraud to infringe life, liberty, or property of anyone. The role of the government now is to protect your individual sovereignty. So protect you from me and me from you by virtue of not allowing any one of us to use or get away with using force or fraud against anyone else. So now we put laws and structures in place that will ensure proper policing and a proper justice system. The purpose of the justice system, in addition to dealing with any crimes that might have been committed, is also to settle contractual dispute, because we're going to encourage people to enter into contractual arrangements that is mutually agreeable to them, not ones which are forced by the government or coerced by the government or where we're interfering. We want you to be free to enter into contracts with each other freely without any form of government coercion. And then if either of you fail to uphold your end of the bargain, you have a justice system which allows you to get remedy without killing each other. Crimes of any other sort, violence is force. Whether the force is using a gun or a knife or the fist or some other form of coercion, it's still violence. We prosecute all of those. We want to make sure that you now have a safe environment to operate in. Safety is the number one thing you need to have a good economy. If the people don't feel safe, they can't engage effectively in commerce. That's why Jamaicans are so unproductive. They don't feel safe on so many levels. They don't feel safe to lend money. They don't feel safe to borrow. They don't feel safe to invest. They don't feel safe to set up new businesses, because there's so many unsafe elements to doing business here. So they're suppressed. So that's why foreigners come in here and do better, because when they come in, the government gives them better deal. They get, they buy the government, they buy their way through the processes, while
Right.
we don't have that disposable income to do that. So you have to create a safe environment. Then you have to create a very clean environment. Somebody would say cleanliness is next to godliness. I say cleanliness is the key for you to operate efficiently and effectively. If your environment is orderly, if you're safe, you're prepared to do well in life, no matter where you are. If you have that, you'll do well. And then thirdly, the order, public order. Within that context, you need a monetary system that allows you to quickly do trade with others and access capital and enter into contracts. If you have that, you want to make sure you augment all of that with a powerful education system that creates bright people. People who know how to think, people who know how to reason, people who understand the universe, who understand the world around them, not people who learn to regurgitate and demonstrate that they have better memories than others. Memory is good, memory is important, but you want intellect more than memory. You want problem solvers, you want innovators, you want creators, you want inventors. You don't want simply people who can only get a job where they follow instructions. They go in and the thing is set for them, and you just say, when you see this, you punch this. When you get this, and no, you have to move beyond that. You don't want people who are dependent on a slave driver over them, where they only do work if somebody is looking over their shoulder. You don't want an economy that is based purely on manual labor. You want an intelligent society, very intelligent. So you have to teach that very early, very, very early. So you want, when you talk to a basic school student, they must sound intelligent from basic school. Yeah? From basic school, they must sound intelligent. When they now go to primary school, even more. When they leave primary school at age 11, 12, 13, whatever, they must already have a very strong understanding of the world around them and can reason like a well-developed adult, even though they're not fully mature yet. By the time they finish high school, they should be ready to engage in any work pursuit. And by the time they finish university, they're now a very advanced thinker and can produce high-level products and services. And if they go on to masters, they're killing it. PhD, you know it. If we continue with this fake education system where people get 10, 13 subjects, but they're still dunce, not gonna work. So we have to fix all of that. So safe, clean, orderly, educated, and cut out corruption.
Okay. A question from Randall Hemmings says, so what will happen when the internet goes down? No access to your own money?
Excellent question. Once you get to a digital economy, then you're highly dependent on internet access and electricity, by the way, energy. So if your electricity infrastructure must be strong and your internet infrastructure must be strong. And then you have to have redundancies built in. So you build in redundancies. You also, for example, the way you'd want to do a phone system, you want to make sure the phone can do transactions still, and then it's saved in the memory and locked. And then when the internet come back, then it completes, everything. But the peer-to-peer connection will work between the two of you. And then it gets uploaded to the system once you get back into connection zone. So there are a number of ways to mitigate this. For senior citizens, I saw somebody asking the question, right. You have to make provision for senior citizens. And this will mean better technologies we already have. We already have good technology for biometrics technology that will help seniors to be able to navigate the space very well. And you can also have backup facilities for them. Like if they're going to be taken care of by another adult, then you have, all of that figured out. But we have to move. There's no escaping the digital age. We can tell ourselves that, okay, we're going to try to hold on to paper money. You can hold on to it, but it only means that you're crippling your economy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we must go digital. It's just how we go digital, not the CBDC. Yeah.
Roy McLean is asking, do you think the USA would want to sabotage us?
Yes. Anyone who has a vested interest to maintain the existing system will want to sabotage us. The question is how wise, how intelligent we are in managing that relationship. My mentor is Lee Kuan Yew. When he was converting Singapore to being a first-class nation, a first world nation, at the heights of the Cold War, which was a very, very tense period, fighting communists on his own soil, dealing with China next door, dealing with the Americans and the British, I learned a lot from him how we should deal with geopolitics in order to be able to effectively navigate those waters. What we can't afford to do, though, is to say we expect that others are going to sabotage us, so we do nothing. It's like you saying, my tires just blew out, I'm on the Dyke Road, criminals may come and kill me. No, me hurry up and put on my tire. Yeah, very fast. You should have seen how fast I change the tire there. Bam, bam, bam. It was tough enough. And then kick off them nuts, get them nuts off, jack up the thing fast. Looking left, right, and center while I'm working. Put on my tire quickly. I didn't care about my hands getting dirt. I didn't care about my clothes getting dirt. I didn't care about jumping onto the car to get out the spear and dotting up myself, because my most important objective, get the tire on and get the hell out of there. And I did that.
Pauline P is asking, once UIC gets into leadership, what would be the first 4 things that would be addressed?
Sure, the first 4 things. Number 1, replace the Constitution. Number 1, hands down, replace the Constitution and get Jamaica off that. Number 2, remove Jamaica from the fraudulent monetary system and make sure we have a free banking system and real money. Number 3, remove all regulations that protect big business and suppress small businesses. And number 4, completely eradicate the colonial Eurocentric education system and replace it with an Afrocentric modern system that will make our children the envy of the world.
Very good. And so you spoke earlier on free banking, or you mentioned just a while ago free banking. Could you expound a little bit on free banking for those that may not understand what that is?
Sure, absolutely. Free banking is a system where you have full competition in the banking space. It's so competitive that it will be almost costing you $0 as a user of the system. It is a system that will not allow the banks to use fractional reserve lending. They're now going to have to compete in the space to attract your money as deposits. They have to enter the contract with you to lend your money. So now no more fraud. They have to actually have clean, clear contractual arrangements with you for your money. That's going to ensure that we have a stable banking system with no fraud, stable purchasing power, and the government will no longer borrow money at interest from private banks. The government will print its own money or produce its own money at no interest and grow the economy at a pace that does not interfere with your purchasing power and does not interfere with your need for cash liquidity to be able to carry on your business. So in essence, it is the mirror opposite of what you have now. So you will have greater access, you will have more options, you will have no more inflation, and you will have a government that is not spending over 33% of its income on interest and principal on debt. So we're going to move away from a debt-based monetary system to a productivity-based monetary system.
A question from Redeem Life. I cannot help but wonder how you will bypass the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset global takeover.
A very good question. Remember, we have 2 options here: swim or sink. So if we decide to not bypass the World Economic Forum, then it means we're accepting that we're going to sink. I don't plan to sink. I may sink, I may drown, I may die, but I'm not going to go down easily. So what I'm saying to my dear people, let us fight this. I can't tell you everything I'm going to do because I'd be very stupid to do that. So what I'm doing here tonight is give you a general flavor and feel for where we're going to go. But I guarantee you this, we are going to do everything possible to bypass any system or anyone who wants to stop us from becoming a truly free and prosperous nation.
Comment from Jojoya. Why doesn't the PM resign like the UK PM? He keeps hanging on.
Well, the PM doesn't need to. In the UK, the entire nation is in uproar fully. The markets, and it's not even the nation so much as the markets in the UK, because, and what do we mean by markets? And don't be fooled. The UK, oh, let me tell you something. My assessment of what has just happened with Liz Truss and the Conservative government so far. Liz Truss, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, I always look for the hidden agendas. Liz Truss was placed there in order for the UK people to accept the next person they're going to bring forward. What she put forward as a mini budget was designed to be disastrous. Think about it carefully. Liz Truss did not get up by herself as one little lady and a black chancellor of all things. Yeah. So this little lady and this black chancellor by themselves just come up with a very flimsy, outrageous policy that they're going to give the richest people a tax break, and they're going to borrow money to fund that tax break. That is suicidal, and they knew it. Okay? Now, I mean, I could be wrong, but there's no way that the cabinet, meaning all of the cabinet members, sat down and agreed with the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, who is the Minister of Finance, by the way, coming out and telling the people of the UK that here's how we're going to fix the problem. We're going to give the richest people a tax break, and we're going to borrow some money to pay for that tax break. They knew it would spark outrage. Now, in the midst of this outrage, they will now bring forward their true candidate, and the people say, thank God. Whew. Sigh of relief. The market is now better. And by the way, a part of this entire agenda, mark my words, is to get the people of the UK to agree to go back into the European Union. Watch carefully. Remember, I said this. Pay attention. All right, back to you, sir.
So, please mark this date as we may come back to it.
Yes.
That connector is asking, Mr. Patterson, are you watching BRICS coming to the fore as an economic force to challenge the US and the EU? Your opinion on this, please.
Sure, I've been paying full attention to the BRICS. It will not work. It's a good idea. It's good intentions.
Mr. Patterson, just for those that may not know what BRICS is or what the BRICS, explain that for them.
Sure, no problem. The BRICS is a group of countries that came together to counteract the Western monetary banking system, seeking to replace the US dollar as the world reserve currency. So the BRICS include Brazil, it includes China, it includes Russia, it includes India, and it includes, what's the last one? So Brazil, Russia, India, China, I forgot what the last one is, but these are the BRICS countries. So they're trying to move away from the dollarization of the global economy. Now, the problem with BRICS is, as they try to move away from the dollarization, they have to agree on which currency will replace that. They're going to have some difficult time figuring that out, but in the meantime, they're doing some damage to the US. Now, the US still controls about 80% of the reserve banking market. So for example, Jamaica keeps much of its foreign reserves in US dollars. This is what helps to prop up the US. All the countries in the world have huge amount of US dollars that they buy and keep in the reserve banks to be able to facilitate, they say, exports between their nation. It's totally unnecessary, but it's something that the US got them to agree to at the Bretton Woods Agreement after World War II, when the US came out as the winner, meaning the economic winner of the war. The US loves war because during wars, it benefits greatly from wars. So brace yourself for World War III, because they do, whenever they're making these major changes, in order to push through the things that they need to push through, they need wars to do that. And they also trade in weapons. The US is one of the world's leading producer and seller of weapons and a leading proponent of war. So they need wars, they need weapons, and they need these disguises to push through new policies and programs that will continue to shore up the US economy and allow it to export its inflation. And what do I mean by that? Somebody was asking in the chat earlier, what is exporting inflation? It's very simple. If you force countries through the mechanisms to have to keep buying your money, getting your dollars into their reserves, and then you print more of that, then you water down their dollars, right? And then you also give them debts denominated in US, so they have to pay back those debts, and then you print more of that money, then you water down their money, and they have to find more money to buy more of your money to pay their debts. So it keeps pushing their inflation because they're creating money to do all kind of stuff, pay for wars around the world, pay for bases around the world, lend money, which is just out of thin air, but lend it anyways, and so on. And they also, because they manipulate the money supply, like right now, US bonds are hot commodities. So every country in an economy like this, they buy US dollar bonds and treasury as a way of protecting the devaluation of their own currency, which is a really ridiculous idea, but it works for them, for the US. And so again, they export more of their inflation. So every time you hear Joe Biden and the Democrats talk about how much money they're going to pump anywhere, you should actually be crying. If you understood it, Lord God, they're about to destroy more of my wealth. Every dollar more that they print is a destruction of your wealth and my wealth. And every time the Jamaican government takes more of that money into Jamaica, so let me explain this to you. When the Jamaican government borrows money and get this big US chunk of money, remember, they now need to pay this back in US dollars. Right. To pay it back in US dollars, they have to suck more out of Jamaica to be able to keep up. Because remember, Jamaica, back up a second. Here's how Jamaica would do well. Let's say for every dollar of US we need to spend to pay back a debt or pay for goods that we import, we were selling something that gives us a comparable amount. So let's say we have to find, 100 million US dollars this month to pay for stuff, to pay for debt, to pay for stuff, 100 million US. If we had a product that we're selling that also gave us 100 million US coming in, no problem. You call that parity. So the $2 would be within range. Now, let's say we have to pay for stuff, 100 million US dollars. We have to pay for stuff. But we're only getting in half as much, 50 million US dollars from whatever stuff we sell. It means now we have a trade deficit, a trade imbalance, because now we're getting less US in, but we're sending more US out. That means the value for a dollar has to drop to achieve balance between the two. And if we keep doing that more and more, then the value for a dollar has to drop more and more to keep it up. When your dollar drop, what does it mean? It means the value of the purchasing power of your citizens are dropping. So we're getting poorer and poorer every year as the value of our dollar is dropping. So you see that both in inflation and you see that in devaluation. So as long as we don't have an economy which is productive enough to match our imports, we're consistently getting poorer. Over time, you see that poverty in inability to repair roads, inability to have decent hospitals, inability to have decent schools, higher crime rate because our social infrastructure has been destroyed, our economy has been destroyed, so we're not providing enough opportunities for our youth. And as they become more disgruntled and more disaffected and more marginalized, they find new ways of expressing themselves, which includes murdering, raping, killing, stealing, all kind of stuff, right? So as long as we are not managing our economy properly, you'll continue to have that. The government can tell you anything they want, all the stories they want to tell you. The bottom line is that because they're failing to make Jamaica a productive economy, they're creating all the other problems you're seeing. Every single one of them, all the social problems, is as a result of our own government not being able to manage our economy properly and then taking the easy way out of borrowing more money, begging even the begging money. When they beg the money and that money comes into the country, all it does is devalue us because they're spending this new money into our economy, but there's no production to match it. Yeah. So it's going to inflate away the little value of the money of the hard workers. So let's say you have in our economy 250,000 persons, which is actually what it is, working really hard in Jamaica, producing, and you bring money in and give the other 750,000 all kinds of handouts or whatever. The 250,000 are them pay for it because this new money will now water down the value of their money, and they will feel it because there's, oh, me work so hard and I can't get no way. Yeah, because the government has brought in some free money, give it away into the economy, facilitated idleness, did not build up the capital stock of human ability, did not build up our productive capacity. But yes, they did spend the money. They got money for crime, they got money for COVID, they got money for this and that. Sure, sounds nice, but having money without productivity is destructive.
Yeah. Someone is saying, Roy McLean is saying, love how you explain it. Yes, Mr. Patterson is a master at explaining these things. Deborah Williams is asking, if the UK goes back to EU, what does that mean?
Oh, it simply means that the purpose of the euro, the European Union, the purpose of the European Union is to enslave the European people. Okay? When Britain left the Union, it created a crack in the Union, which leaves an outlier, somebody, a significant economy that's outside of it, and it allows them to succeed without being in the euro. And what that will mean, if that happens, other European nations may leave the euro as it starts to falter. They need to wrap them all in so that they can sink together. They can't allow the euro to sink while the UK is independent and growing. So they need now to try to sabotage the UK, which is what they're doing, make sure the UK fails, to say, see, you need to be in here. Now, when they finally get them in and lock them all in like they're trying to do us with the Cbdc, then now they can fully bring on the rest of the pain on the European people and subjugate them fully because now they're locked into a system. You understand? So as long as the UK is outside of the euro, there is a threat to the rest of the union to secede. Yeah? So they need the UK in. And when the UK gets in, they enslave the UK people like they're doing with the rest of the European. Now, of course, the UK is still a part of the grander system, right? So they're a part of the global enslavement, but they need to bring the euro together. The more countries they can get to unite under whatever system, that's the goal. And to lock you from having any divergent views, having any one outlier that can create whatever. So they're going to fight us in Jamaica, but I'm prepared for the fight. And I'm prepared to show them up by doing well. Yes.
All right. So Pauline, I think this will be our last question because we're over 2 hours now. Was Singapore in a similar condition to how Jamaica currently is? And did you say that their PM is your mentor? Yes, he did. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I love Lee Kuan Yew. I couldn't tell you how much. I mean, I think Lee Kuan Yew, and by the way, this doesn't mean he's perfect, you know. This doesn't mean that he's a saint. It doesn't mean that he's Jesus Christ or anything like that. He's just a brilliant leader who did so well with so little and under such great odds. So Singapore in 1965, they got independence 3 years after us. If you took both countries and put them side by side in 1965, here's what you will see. Singapore's GDP per capita was 550 US dollars. Some reports will say little less, some little more, but roughly 550 US. Jamaica, incidentally, was also 550 US per person. That's what per capita means. Per capita means per person. So you take the GDP of the country, whatever that number is, and you divide it by the number of people in that country, and you get the GDP per capita or per person. Good. So the both countries, 550 per person. Now, in Jamaica, you had vast amount of resources: banana industry, sugar industry, coffee industry, bauxite industry, tourism industry. Everything was going well for Jamaica in 1965. All we needed now was a government like Lee Kuan Yew to take us through the stratosphere. Now, if you go to Singapore at the same time, what do you see? Dirty, haggard, divisive. They were fighting over racial issues, fighting over language issues, fighting over religious issues, fighting. They had a massive communist problem in that country where they were fighting guerrilla warfare, communism war, serious war. Really backwards, backwater. They were not cohesive. In Jamaica, on the other hand, most of us were black. Most of us almost always spoke patois, generally speaking. It was a very peaceful and cohesive nation compared to Singapore. Quite orderly, believe it or not. In the 1960s, Jamaica was far more orderly than now. Reason being, Jamaica was just coming out of the direct colonial rule. When the colonial masters were here, they were very strict about safety. They were very strict about cleanliness. They were very strict about order for themselves. So they made sure that the people were kept in check, and what they did now was to just marginalize them in the economy by pushing them to the labor side of the economy, the manual labor side of the economy, the menial work side of the economy, and reserve the higher productivity levels or higher intelligence levels for the white class and the brown class, that kind of stuff. So Jamaica was poised for absolutely taking off if our new leaders, coming from the 1944, who had 18 years of experience before then, from 44 to 62, and then now by 65, they would have had 3 more years, 21 years of experience, right? Better position than Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew now used the next 25 years. He got elected his first 5-year term. After his performance, the people loved him because he connected with them and explained, the way I'm explaining to you, he explained what he was trying to do. He went on radio and he talked to the people and explained, and he worked and he lived. He made sure all ministers came to work the first day in all white, not to support white supremacy. He said to them, this government is going to be a corruption-free government. And when his own friend messed up on the corruption front, he did not intervene to save them. He sacrificed him and made it clear to the people that there shall be no corruption in this government. And by the second election, he won by a landslide. And the third election, he won again. And the fourth election, he won again. And for 25 years, he led that country from a backwater, poverty-stricken, dirty country to one of the safest, cleanest, most orderly, anti-corrupt, and well-educated nation on the planet. And that's why today Singapore is among the envy of the world.
Amen. So that was the last question, guys. We're over 2 hours,
gosh,
2 hours and 13 minutes. I just want to thank all of you for tuning in. I hope you guys got some value from this. Please rate, drop in as we do, drop in the comments, your ratings for this evening's show. 10 if it was excellent, great value. 1 if it wasn't excellent and you didn't get much value. So please, drop in the comments. And I really appreciate you guys for for being here and being on the live, and for sticking with us for hours and 40 minutes now. Wayne Noble, the man with the vision, the man with the plan, definitely. That connector, lovely ending. Carol Spence says 10. Thank you, Carol. JMH says 10. Ruthan, 10. Devereaux, 9. That connector, 10. Kayan Brown, 10. Christ-like Kemar, 10 for sure. DJ Wilders, 10. Avi, 10 out of 10. So thank you guys. Sylvester Lawrence, 10. Thank you guys for your ratings. Please remember that you can go onto our website, www.uicjamaica.com, and sign up to be donate and sign up to be a member of the UIC if you're so led. Roy McLean, 10. Thank you. Sweet Lady, 10. Sonia Mignat, 10. A lot of 10s. All right. So thank you guys so much. Mr. Patterson, any last words?
I can only say thank you all for being here tonight, and I am looking forward to us taking over Jamaica, rescuing our land, and building a truly free and prosperous nation. Remember, one Jamaica, stronger together. Good night, everyone. Take care.